Alright, we've got this Breda Garand all torn down now, degreased. I just want to have a little bit of a closer look at some of these pieces and parts. A lot of pieces have some issues, some pits and grinder marks, and see if I can get this camera to focus a little bit. Everything has got some issues. It's not in the greatest of shape, but all these parts can be replaced. You can see that there's pitting on just about everything. You can see there, it'll move in nice and slow. You can see all the issues on that piece. So it's not, not great. Depends how fussy the customer wants to be. This rear sling swivel was pretty pitted. There we go. Get in slow there. You can see it. Pretty pitted, so that really should be replaced. You can't really repair that. It's such a difficult piece to work on and file. It'd be better to just buy another one. The screws are all good. The bolt looks good. It's a Springfield Armory bolt. Like I say, some of the parts have been changed on this thing. It's not all original Breda parts. So just trying to get that number to show up there. There we go. There we go. That's better. So, but it's basically a nice bolt. There's no pitting or anything on it, so that's reusable. We'll go ahead and use that. A lot of rust inside this gun. A lot of pieces have rust issues. A lot of exterior pitting and interior pitting, but that's reusable. Nothing there is going to affect its functionality. So once again, we talked about this piece here. It's got some combination of pits and machining marks in it. So that's going to need to be dealt with. But we can save all that. You can see the pitting up on the edge there, on that wide part. You can see the pitting there. Yeah, right there. And then we got a few, grinder marks and things, machining marks that we'll try and clean that up a little bit, make it look a little bit better. Butt plate is, typical dinged up, banged up. If you want the gun to look nice, you should buy a repro or a nice used one. But the repros are very nice, so that's what I'd recommend. Rear aperture. Rear aperture looks good, no issues. All looks nice. Yep, no problem there. This cover here, this sight cover, it has some pitting in it. So if I can get this to focus up, I'll move up nice and slow. You can see it's got some pitting on it. So that really should be replaced. You can't fix this. It's too thin a metal to be filing or farting with. So if you want it mint, that's going to need a new piece there. Sight ears, sight base is pretty good. Some minor pitting, but nothing too major. We can handle that. If I move in nice and slow, you can see it's got a few pits and issues along the edge there, but nothing major. Not too much damage on the top. Usually these are all dinged and dented on top, but this one's not bad. And once again, a few minor pits that we're going to have to fix. Back end looks good. No big issues there. So that piece is salvageable. Windage knobs, all that stuff, that's all good. No issues at all with the windage knobs. All this is good. You see a lot of rust, a lot of interior rust. This gun didn't get oiled or taken care of very well. It sat a long time untouched. So a lot of pieces have rust on them, as you can see. So, but that'll all blast off. That's no problem. It's all internal parts. They don't show. I've got new springs to replace all these operating springs. I got a whole big bag here from Wolf Spring Company. So there's a recoil spring there and hammer spring, a bunch of different ones. So we'll be using those on the rebuild. And what else we got? We got our trigger guard. Trigger guard is it's slightly, if I can Get this to focus. It's slightly pitted. I'm going to bead blast it and see what it looks like after it's bead blasted. It might not be worth fixing, might not be that bad. We'll see. This is far worse. This piece is much worse. We definitely have pitting, lots of pitting going on there, and I haven't even bead blasted. Once I bead blast it, it's going to be terrible. Let's see if I can get a good sharp image on there. Yeah, now you can start to see. So it's going to explode. Once that's in the bead blast cabinet, all that rust is going to just open right up. So you're probably going to be buying one of these, but we'll know in a minute once I bead blast everything. Safety, once again, it's pitted and corroded, and once I bead blast it, you're going to have lots of visible pits, and of course more rust, because the inside wasn't, this gun wasn't taken care of very well. It sat a long time untouched, so that's kind of crappy. By the time that's bead blasted, that's definitely going to be a rough looking piece, so it might not be worth it to put on this particular gun. Once again, a lot of rust, a lot of interior rust, but that'll all clean up, no big deal. Trigger's in good shape, no pitting or anything. All these other internal parts are good, everything's good here and there. That's all good. We'll get to these barrel bands. Now, we knew they were kind of bad. I pointed that out before. Just see if I can get this to show up. You can see the pitting on it. Yeah, you can see that pitting. So I think this is going to be a scrap piece. By the time I bead blast that, I think that those rust pits are going to just explode. See if I can get a little crisper shot of that. There we go. There we go. Now you can see what I'm talking about. So she's pretty pitted. I don't think that's going to be worth saving. No, I'm sure that's not going to be where you can see that, how bad that is. And I haven't even bead blasted it yet, so I don't think that piece is going to be usable. Here's the that snap ring spring steel clip that holds that handguard on. You can see it's just a mess. I mean, it's just, let me get a little better grip on it here. It's just a mess. It's just rusted to death on the inside. It's rusted to death on the outside. Just no point saving it. None at all. These are readily available. Look at that, just eaten away. There's nothing left of it. So we'll replace that. Yeah, that's scrap. And of course, this piece is really scrap. The heat shield piece inside, that metal piece to protect the wood against the heat of the barrel. I mean, it's pitted, or well, yeah. In fact, it's. If I hold it up to the light, you can actually see light right through it. That's how rotten it is. So, I mean, it's not a visible piece, but it could be reused. I mean, it's not a pretty piece, but it would function. But the outer piece is absolutely scrap. I mean, it's just eaten away. There's nothing left. I mean, look at that. Look at how badly eaten away that is. Just eaten right through. You can look right through it there. So we're not going to mess with that piece. That piece is delegated to the scrap bin. So we won't even bother bead blasting that piece. Front sight. Once again, it's got a lot of surface rust. That when it's dark black rust like that, once you bead blast that, I mean, it's pitted everywhere. It's just not worth. Look at that. Just not worth doing anything with. No, we're going to be changing that piece as well. Luckily, all these pieces are reasonably available and they're not overly expensive. So we'll change that piece as well. The screw for it is fine. Just needs to be sandblasted. It's a little bit rusty, but we'll clean that up. Gas tube, all that's good. Blah blah. That's all good. Missing the stacking swivel and its screw. We already knew that. So basically, we've gone over all these parts. Everything's looking good. That's all good. Everything's good. Now let's get down to the receiver. Well, the receiver's good. There's no issues at all with the receiver. It's a nice receiver. Like I say, it's a Breda. It's got no pitting, no issues. It's nice everywhere. The barrel is scrap. I did notice something else too on the barrel, that it wasn't timed right. Someone's installed the barrel. It's a let's just have a look at that. It looks like it's made in December. December of '64. I'm just going to see if I can get in there, get a bit of a shot for you. Made in December of '64, but it's the bore is terrible. It's pitted. It's a dark bore. I can get this camera to focus. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So you can see 12 of '64, Springfield Armory. Yeah, Springfield Armory, 12 of '64. But it's badly pitted up at the top there. You can see all the pits from the you know, the moisture in that handguard. I mean, that's terrible. That's terrible. Look at all those pits. I wouldn't even want to shoot the damn thing. It's the most critical part of the gun right here. This takes the most force of anything else. When that bullet explodes right in there. And the bore, like I say, the bore is shot anyway. The bore is all dark. And it wasn't even installed properly. The barrel's not threaded to the right spot. So the customer complained that the op rod was flying off when he fired it. Well, that's why. The op rod's not even riding straight in the track of the receiver, because it's being dictated by the barrel, which dictates how the gas tube goes on, which dictates where the op rod's going to go. So if the barrel's not right, you've got problems all the way down the line. That's your first step. That barrel's got to be right. So, but like I say, everything else on this receiver is nice. The receiver has no issues, just the barrel. So I'm going to recommend to the customer that we get a new barrel. And what do we got here for an op rod? Op rod's looking good. It's got some pits in it. It's a well used op rod. You see, it's got a lot of pitting, and mind you, that's not important. That doesn't really matter. We're you know, that's not going to affect its functionality. But here's where the problem comes in. As you can see, and I pointed this out to you yesterday in the other video, that piece is just, get that camera to focus in, pitted from one end to the other. You can just see them in there. You see all the pits? So when that thing gets bead blasted, which I'm going to do right now, and I'm going to come back and show you, you see what I talk about rust, how rust hides. Get in there nice and slow, get this camera to focus. You can see what I'm talking about. Just horrible amount of pitting, just horrible. And we haven't even blasted it yet. So anyway, so we'll get that done. Got your recoil spring. It's you know, it's kind of rusty and beat up, but once again, we got a brand new one. So I'm just going to take half a dozen of these pieces here, and I'm going to set them off, and I'm going to bead blast them. Everything that I'm in question about, I'm going to bead blast. I bead blast instead of sandblast initially because it gives it a softer finish, and I can see the pits and see the issues. If you sandblast it, it leaves it so dull and flat looking that you can't see any details. So I bead blast first, and then I sandblast for the parkerizing. So we'll throw a few pieces in there and bead blast them and see what they're going to look like. Everything else is looking good. We'll do the op rod. Anything that I'm not worried about pitting, or that I don't have to be concerned about too much. Yeah, there's the rust on that again. Anything I don't have to be that concerned about, I'm not bead blasting. It's going directly to sandblast and parkerizing. So I might do that piece too. It's got a little bit of fine pitting in it. We'll see what it looks like once it comes out of the bead blast. But everything else, bolt, all that stuff, maybe I'll do this piece too. It's got some rust issues right there. A little bit more there. So there's a half a dozen or so pieces that I'm going to bead blast, and as soon as I get that done, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown on those pieces, and we'll take it from there. Okay.